Good evening and welcome. I'm so glad to be here. Been looking forward to talking to you all day. I have a wonderful lesson that I have been preparing for the last couple of days, and I believe we are streaming live. I think I have everything set up, and I just have to make sure that I can find it online. And yes, it's live. Fantastic. Okay, I am learning, I am growing. I can do difficult technology things. So, my name is Tara Nichols. I'm a licensed mental health clinician here in the state of Georgia and the founder and CEO of the Nichols Center. So, welcome to my office. If you are joining us for the first time for this wonderful conversation, this is our Friday conversation that we have around mental health. Love getting to share this time with you. We film these conversations for our partners that are not able to come and be with us in the office. We have team members here in Georgia, in Florida, and in Uganda. So this is something that I look forward to every week, getting a chance to talk about some mental health concepts and then share that to all of my wonderful friends that want to learn more about how to have intentional wellness through managing mental health. So I don't want to take too long because I've spent an hour and a half trying to figure out how to reset up the camera, and I think I have it kind of down to a science. Last week, if you watched my video last week, I learned how to turn on the worksheets so that you can see them on the videos, which was quite an exciting process to figure out. I am technology challenged. My kid does most of my setup for me. Today I managed to delete the camera off of the app, so I've figured out how to restore that, and so I need a team. I need a tech team. So in the meantime though, we are live. You're here. I hope you have a cup of tea or coffee or water to refresh yourself, and that you're ready and excited for this wonderful lesson. Today's lesson, I wanted to talk about cognitive flexibility. And I love talking about cognitive thinking. I am, as a clinician, a lot of my orientations circle around our cognitions, our thought processes, right? I love exploring different ways to change your thinking, right? Rewrite your narrative, shift the way you look at problems, and begin looking at things just a little differently. I believe that cognitive therapy is one of the most powerful ways that you can realign a life towards well-being and heal from things that you've been through. And cognitive flexibility is so important for that process. So, if you're new to this channel, this is our 8th episode of me trying to learn how to record these sessions and share them with our broader audience and our friends. And so welcome. And in these lessons, you will find nuggets of wisdom, different cognitive concepts, some psychoeducational materials and information, and you'll learn more about the center and what we do. I am a trauma therapist, so my expertise is trauma. My goal is to help people move through their suffering, and we understand that in life there is pain and suffering, right? Everyone, that is the great guarantee that everyone in this life will go through some form of suffering at some point in their life. And the gift in that suffering is that we all experience suffering, so there is unity in the idea of suffering, that we can connect one with each other, and we can decide that in facing that suffering and growing through those moments, that we can lean towards healing. As a trauma therapist, we have a saying that hurt people. And the idea that somebody who is hurting, they might perpetuate that hurting in other relationships, right? They might create harm for others because they were a hurt person. And if they stay in that hurt, in that resentment, in that pain, that they then in turn will actually carry that pain forward, and that will impact their relationships with others. And if that's true, and we believe in therapy that that is often what happens, that the same is true for healed people. that healed people heal others, right? And our goal here, because we know that everyone goes through suffering, our goal becomes that if we move towards healing, that we would then find the healing that we needed in order to share that with others. And so I hope that these videos, as you watch them, that you've got your notepad and you're able to take some notes, and that you're able to pull some small nuggets for your own healing, or to begin sharing that healing with other individuals that you come across in your life. So please, this is an information sharing opportunity. So please, I hope that this lesson today is something that you're able to take forward. So let's talk about what is cognitive flexibility. What are cognitive distortions, and what things can we do to have cognitive well-being or cognitive health? So your brain is a thought engine. It has thoughts, and not all of those thoughts are positive thoughts or helpful or useful thoughts. Anyone who has small kids, especially boys, will understand when I say that your brain comes up with some dumb ideas sometimes, right? If you were a kid and you ever said, "Hey mom, watch this," you might be engaging in a really dumb idea, and your mom probably was like, "Oh no, what's about to happen," right? Every mom's anxiety goes up when they hear their child say, "Hey mom, watch this," and you're like, "Oh no, what are they about to do?" Right? Where are they climbing? What are they about to jump off of? What are they about to drive really fast? And are they going to be safe? So your brain doesn't always have the greatest of thoughts. And as you become an adult, sometimes the patterns of your thoughts, the way that your thoughts begin building over your life, can stay in negative patterns. And it's very important to be aware and cognitive, or have cognitions about your thinking, and we call that metacognitions. When you think about your thoughts, when you stop and you take an analysis of, are my thoughts good thoughts, not so good thoughts? Are they safe thoughts? Are they distorted thinking? Are my thoughts healthy for me? And in psychotherapy, we call that metacognitions. That's thinking about our thinking. And this is a part of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. The cognitive part is what we're focused on. Are your thoughts something that really benefit your life? And if they're not, what can you do about it? And this is where cognitive flexibility really comes into play. Now, in cognitive behavioral therapy, we look at those cognitions and we start to identify, are the patterns of your thoughts healthy for you? Okay? And therapists can do this in a couple of different ways. One of the ways a therapist might ask you to start assessing your thoughts might be to journal, right? And there's a couple of different ways you can journal. You can just, write your feelings down, your very raw thoughts. You can use journal prompts where you have certain questions that you need to answer every day to kind of guide your thoughts towards a particular pattern or a particular thinking process. And then there's also a way of journaling where you're journaling in the third person. You're writing about yourself as if you're observing yourself. And that's actually really cognitively healthy to do that, because what we know is that oftentimes people are kinder and more gracious and more supportive of others than they are themselves, especially individuals that are nurturing and empathic and connected to others. They're more likely to be kinder to the way that they would judge or critique other people. But what we find is when they talk about themselves, they tend to be very harsh or critical. And when you're journaling, if you're journaling just your raw feelings, sometimes those feelings, if you're stuck in those distortions, those feelings are going to also be distorted, right? What you're going to journal is going to be from that same distorted perspective. Now, when you reread it and inventory it and begin saying, is this true? Is this not that true? Is the way I wrote about my life a true reflection of what I'm going through, or is this distorted? Am I writing in resentment? Am I writing through an emotional lens? it's really important to take a minute and look through, especially if that's the type of journaling you're doing, where you're having almost like a negative vent session about your life, or this very raw and unfiltered process, to then take a moment to go back and look at it. Now, if you're writing journal prompts, let's say you and your therapist, or a book that you're reading, or something that you personally want to track in your life and look at in your life, if you're writing journal prompts and you're following along, then you have to stop and think, when you write what you're writing about, is it aligned with that journal prompt? Is it something that is benefiting you? Is it something that is creating that metacognition where you're looking at the way you are thinking about your life? And if that life and the way you're thinking about your life is set up in a positive and a more beneficial and joyful and connected way, to where you are moving towards a state of well-being. But if you write about yourself as if you were another person, if you write about yourself in third person, using your your actual name, right? So if I was writing about myself, I would say, Tara did this, Tara felt this, Tara said this. And that creates a sense of almost removal from that personalized experience to the emotions. And it really creates this cognitive process where you begin almost processing yourself through the lens of grace, through that lens of compassion that you would have for someone else. What we find is that those journals are often more thoughtful and more connected towards healing and wellness, because we want the best for others. We want the best for those that we care about. Sometimes we simply forget to care about ourselves, right? We have this personalized experience to our pain and our suffering that makes us believe that we should stay in that pain and suffering. Now, pain and suffering, it lives in the same part of the brain that pleasure does, and it actually can begin rewiring the brain to where it almost feels good to feel badly about yourself. And that's why many times people get stuck in these pity parties, or this self-loathing or self-resentment, because you can get really into a pattern of just tearing yourself down, staying in that insecurity. And when you're able to recognize that and say cognitively, right? Remember, we're focused on metacognitions. My thoughts about myself, they're really in a negative space. I wonder if that's truly how I feel about myself. Or is that a narrative or a pattern that I've just accepted in my life and started applying every day to how I think about myself? When you do this inventory, this is something that gives you a lot of control over your own thinking. And what we know about our thoughts is that they affect our mood, our behaviors, and our beliefs. Our thoughts often back up the way we feel about ourselves, our beliefs about ourselves, and a lot of the actions that we take and how we respond to ourselves and others. If you have positive or even equanimitable, I think that's a word, even balanced thoughts about yourself, if you think about yourself in a neutral space, even, maybe you don't have super positive, productive, happy thoughts about yourself. Maybe you don't think you're gorgeous and amazing and brilliant and all the wonderful things that I'm sure you are. But even if you just had a neutral thought about yourself, right? I'm an okay person. I am a person that deserves to live and breathe and be a part of this world. Maybe I'm not the greatest of all time, but I'm okay. If you struggle holding that position, then these kinds of exercises will be really good for you, because you might be carrying forward a pattern of negativity in your life. You might be letting yourself mistreat yourself in the way you think. And it's really critical that before this becomes a pattern that you carry forward into your entire life, or even share these the self-deprecation, the self-hatred, even if that's going forward into your relationships, that's going to be something where you become one of those hurt people who hurt other people. And we have a saying here at the center that when somebody says something that's not so kind about themselves, I like to say, don't talk about my friend that way. So if you're sitting with your friend and your friend says something about themselves like, oh, I'm just terrible. I'm just dumb. I just can't believe I did that. I like to say, don't talk about my friend that way, because the truth of it is that you are my friend. And I wouldn't want to sit here and listen to you tear yourself down. But shouldn't you be your own friend? Shouldn't you be the person you need? We talked about this in one of the earlier videos about being that person that we need in our own life, helping ourselves align our life towards meeting our own needs. It's a very important process to begin recognizing yourself as a friend to you. And so I just want to ask you to take a minute and think about yourself. If you were to journal some of your own thoughts, some of your own thinking about how you feel and how you think about you, would you like the way you talked to yourself? Would you want your friend to talk about themselves that way? Would you want to sit and listen to your friend tell you what you tell you? I would venture to say that most people probably would be uncomfortable if they had to read what they wrote about themselves out loud. I would say that many people probably say some pretty harsh and critical things and put themselves under some pretty high expectations. And if you sat and had a metacognition and began thinking about the thoughts you think just about yourself, that you might say, maybe I need to change a little bit. And this is where cognitive flexibility can really help you. Now, what is cognitive flexibility? We know what flexibility is, right? Flexibility is the ability to adapt, to move, to shift, to change. The ability to stretch and grow. Now, we know that resilience is a huge part of emotional growth and emotional ability to adapt and overcome difficult situations. And a lot of our training at the center is on resilience. And cognitive flexibility is the ability to think differently about your problems, to change and adapt the way you approach your thoughts, to then begin shifting the way you think about things that you might have been completely certain about before. Maybe there's something that you're like, you know what? I know the answer to this. The answer is this to a particular question, right? Have you ever had a question or somebody said something and you're like, no, I know that's not right. I know the answer to that. And then you found out maybe you were wrong. Maybe the answer you thought was the answer wasn't actually the answer, right? And you've had to maybe question your stance on it. You've had to change your mind. You've had to say, you know what, I thought that was right. And guess what? It wasn't right. That's a sign of cognitive flexibility. Your ability to admit that, hey, I made an adjustment. I made a change. I shifted my thinking. Cognitive flexibility is a sign of curiosity intelligence. It's a sign of an open mind that allows you to move from a state of rigid thinking to a state of graceful or open-minded thinking. Cognitive flexibility is a key to unlocking the different forms of intelligence that you might have. Now, everyone has different forms of intelligence. Even if you're struggling with a developmental disability or a learning disability, you still have intelligence. Some people have spiritual intelligence, emotional intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence, mathematical intelligence. They might have intrapersonal or interpersonal intelligence. Some people have naturalistic intelligence where They are connected more to nature and they can feel and understand things. Some people are more connected through music. They can see and feel and hear music in a way that many people can't. It's very important not to focus on just academic intelligence, because many times we think that an IQ is based on your ability to read and regurgitate information in school. And what we know is that that's not the only form of intelligence. Creativity and creative curiosity is a huge part of intelligence that shows that you have what we call cognitive flexibility, the ability to be curious about discovery, about learning new things, open-minded to shifting the way we think about things, the way we think about what at one point we knew so certainly, and begin opening our mind to expanding the way we understand things. Cognitive flexibility is what allows you to begin moving from a state of rigid thinking or distorted thinking into new thoughts and beliefs. It is critical when doing mental health and shifting from a state of depression, anxiety, or other negative patterns of behavior into a state of wellness, that you begin exploring, are you able to be cognitively flexible with yourself? Do you have the willingness to set aside some of those rigid thinking, some of those thoughts that maybe you just knew for certain you were rubbish, or you knew for certain that you were no good, or that you knew for certain you deserved that horrible thing that happened to you? And that maybe, just maybe, there's room for grace in your life. There's room for connection. There's room for hope. Maybe, just maybe, you can recover. Maybe you didn't deserve the thing that happened to you. Maybe it was just a terrible thing that happened. Maybe you can heal. Maybe some of the choices you made in the past were not so great. You were a hurt person operating in that state of harm, and therefore it created harm for others. But can you have the flexibility to begin shifting the way you look at yourself? Shifting the way you look at other people around you? Maybe the people around you you think might be no good, or harmful, or straight mean sometimes. Are they straight mean? Or are they responding from trauma? Are they a hurt person? Are they behaving in a way that doesn't align with their core values? Is it possible that they could have the same grace and healing that you also can have? These are really important concepts to think about. And as you go into therapy, as you go into understanding mental health, it's so important that you begin building cognitive flexibility for yourself. You can do this in a few ways. You can do this through journaling and art and creativity. You can do this through exploring new ideas and areas, opening up your mind to discovery. You can begin reading new books and be thinking about things that maybe other positions and other people hold an opinion that's different than yours. The goal isn't to change your mind or change their mind or change your opinion or their opinion. The goal is to just begin understanding that other people have different viewpoints, different perspectives, different thoughts. Other people's cognitive patterns might be different than yours, and that's okay too. Allowing yourself to stay flexible with yourself and others. If you have my Authentic Woman book, there's a great lesson in the commitment section on commitment to compassion. And it's a practice where you think of 5 people that you want to hold compassion for. And if you thought about 5 people or 5 groups of people that needed your compassion, who might they be? Would you think about someone who might be homeless, someone who might have addiction issues, someone who might be stuck in negative patterns, someone who might just really be unkind sometimes? Do they need compassion too? Someone who has different values, beliefs, or religion from you. If you were sitting thinking about the list of people who needed compassion, would your name be on that list? Can you hold compassion for yourself? When you have your list, you write your list down, and every day you spend at least 5 minutes with your hand on your heart, reading your list, saying, today, I will choose compassion for the person who's homeless. I will choose compassion for the person who is struggling with addiction. I will choose compassion for the person who believes something differently than I believe, or maybe behaves differently than I behave, or dresses differently than I dress, or looks differently than I look. And I will hold compassion for myself, because if others deserve compassion, you deserve compassion too. And if we believe that all people need compassion in their life, and we know from our other lessons that what we need is what heals the fear and the hurt inside of everyone, then giving that compassion is a very basic human offering you can give. Holding compassion for yourself and others is a key to unlock cognitive flexibility. That is the commitment that allows you to open up your mind and be connected to all groups and all people. And that also allows you to open up your heart to begin healing the spaces of your heart where you might have been too critical or too harsh on yourself. That begins the opportunity to hold space for some of those cognitive distortions and negative narratives that you might hold against yourself. To sit and hold compassion. Now, I know we covered a lot today. I know we talked a lot about cognitive flexibility, cognitive distortions, what cognitive patterns are, and how they lead us to begin holding space for healing for ourselves and others. We talked about journaling, and I do hope that you journal. Journaling can sometimes be hard for me, so I really like to do worksheets, and I really like to think through my worksheets and fill them out, and I like to do short bursts of journaling. General daily diaries is a little bit difficult for my ADHD, but if it works for you, I think it's wonderful. You can also do an art journal. You can sketch or draw the way you feel and what you're going through. I really encourage you to continue to use these as coping skills, but then also take a good look at them and say, am I journaling in a way that honors a solid cognitive process? Am I shifting my journaling towards healthier habits and kinder thoughts about myself? Am I moving my cognitive patterns towards a place of healing? If you're struggling, definitely reach out to a clinician, reach out to a mental health therapist, and let them know that you are struggling with some of your cognitive thoughts. Everyone has distortions. Everyone has negative cognitive patterns. Every single human being. Why? Because your brain's a thought engine, and it's going to come up with good thoughts and not so great thoughts. It's up to you to select the thoughts that you want to work on and the thoughts that you want to keep. And which thoughts are just rubbish and we just throw away. We don't hold on to those. So I really hope this lesson helped you. I hope it's something that you can use in your life. I hope that it's something that begins to open your mind towards mental well-being. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up here. It's almost 7 o'clock here. I've got to get home. I've got to start the weekend. I've got some great plans to do some self-care, do a little painting, do a little creative work. I'm excited. But I hope you have a wonderful Friday. I hope you stay blessed, and I hope you continue to follow us for more videos on mental health and well-being. So if this helps, like, comment, share, and then, of course, subscribe. We want you to help us grow the reach of these videos and share this with others. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.